The night was quiet, too quiet for Michael. The ticking of the clock echoed in his small apartment, where the walls still carried the laughter of a woman who had once called this place home. He sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the faint light flickering through the window. On the table in front of him lay a single photograph, him, his late wife, and their little girl, Emily. Her smile was the kind that made time stop, the kind that could turn any storm into sunlight. But that photo was from another lifetime, before everything changed. Emily was only 7 when her mother passed away. The doctors said it was sudden, unexpected. But to Michael, it felt like the world had just folded in half. Every day since then had been a test of patience, of love, of strength he didn't know he had. He wasn't just her father anymore, he had to be her mother, her best friend, her teacher, her everything. Every morning, he woke up before dawn. He made Emily's favorite breakfast, pancakes shaped like hearts, and packed her lunchbox with a little note that said, "Daddy loves you, princess." He didn't know if it helped, but it made him feel like he was doing something right. Emily would smile, kiss him on the cheek, and run to the school bus, her pink backpack bouncing with every step. At work, Michael was a mechanic. The garage was his second home, full of grease, oil, and noise. His coworkers joked that he worked too hard, but they didn't know that every hour he spent fixing engines was an hour he didn't have to think about the empty half of his bed. Sometimes he'd glance at his phone, hoping to see a message from Emily's teacher, a picture, anything to remind him that he was doing okay. But it wasn't easy. There were nights when he'd come home exhausted, only to find Emily waiting by the door, holding a piece of paper covered in crayons. "Daddy, look, I drew Mommy," she'd say, and he'd kneel, forcing a smile through the ache in his chest. "It's beautiful," he'd whisper, hugging her tightly, feeling the ghost of his wife between them. One Friday afternoon, the school principal called. "Mr. Carter," she said gently, "Emily's been quieter lately. She's doing fine academically, but she's withdrawn. Maybe she needs some extra time with you." That night, Michael sat beside her bed, watching her sleep. Her little hands were curled around the stuffed bear her mom had given her. He whispered softly, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm trying." His voice cracked. "I don't always know how to do this, but I promise, I'll never stop trying." Saturday came, and instead of work, Michael decided to surprise Emily. They drove to the old lake they used to visit as a family. The water shimmered under the morning sun, and Emily's eyes lit up for the first time in weeks. She ran to the edge, laughing as the wind tangled her hair. Michael followed, feeling the warmth of her joy wash over him. For the first time in months, he laughed too. They built a sandcastle together, bigger than any they'd made before. As they finished, Emily looked at him and said, "Mom would have loved this, right?" He froze for a moment, then smiled softly. "Yeah," he said, "she would have been proud of us." Later, they sat under the big oak tree by the water, eating sandwiches and talking about everything, school, her drawings, her dreams. "Daddy," Emily asked, "do you miss Mommy?" He looked up at the sky. "Every day," he said. "But when I see you smile, it feels like she's still here somehow." Emily leaned her head on his shoulder, and for a moment, the world felt whole again. Months passed, and life found its rhythm again. Michael still worked long hours, but now he made sure to be home in time for dinner. They had their little rituals, Friday movie nights, Sunday pancakes, bedtime stories where he made up magical adventures about brave dads and curious daughters. But one evening, everything changed again. Emily came home from school with tear-streaked cheeks. "They said I don't have a mom," she sobbed. "They said I'm different." Michael's heart broke. He knelt down, holding her tightly. "You are different," he said softly, "but in the best way. You're strong, brave, and full of love. And you've got me, and that's forever." That night, after she fell asleep, he sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the moon through the window. He thought about how many single dads must be out there, fighting the same silent battles. He wished someone had told him that love, no matter how broken, could still rebuild a home. The next day, he went to Emily's school and spoke to her class. He told them about families, that some had one parent, some had two, some had grandparents, but all were built on love. The kids listened quietly, and when he finished, Emily's eyes shone with pride. After that, something shifted. Emily started opening up more, drawing happier pictures, laughing louder. And Michael started forgiving himself. Years rolled by. Emily grew into a bright, confident young woman. On her high school graduation day, she stood on stage, valedictorian, with her proud father watching from the crowd. Her speech was simple but powerful. "My dad taught me that love isn't about being perfect," she said. "It's about showing up, even when life breaks you. He's my hero." Tears filled Michael's eyes. When the ceremony ended, she ran into his arms, whispering, "We did it, Daddy." Time moved forward again, but this time, it was kinder. Michael eventually opened a small repair shop of his own, named Emily's Garage. Above the entrance hung a sign that read, "Built with love, one story at a time." One afternoon, as he was cleaning tools, a young man walked in with a broken-down motorcycle. He looked nervous. "You fix these?" he asked. Michael smiled. "We fix everything," he replied. As he worked, they talked. The young man mentioned he was a single father too, struggling to make ends meet. Something about his story struck a chord with Michael. When he handed him the keys later, he refused the payment. "Pay it forward," he said. "Someone helped me once too." The young man smiled gratefully. "You're a good man, sir." Michael watched him drive away, a small smile tugging at his lips. Life had come full circle. He wasn't just a single dad anymore. He was part of a quiet brotherhood, a generation of men who had loved deeply, lost painfully, and kept going anyway. One summer evening, Emily returned home from college. She found her father sitting on the porch, guitar in hand, humming the lullaby he used to sing to her as a child. She sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever get lonely, Dad?" she asked softly. He looked at her, eyes warm and content. "Not anymore," he said. "Because I see you, and I see your mom in you every day." The sun dipped behind the trees, painting the sky in orange and gold. Emily smiled. "You know, I think Mom would be proud of you too." Michael chuckled, wiping a tear from his cheek. "I hope so." That night, as the stars filled the sky, he closed his eyes, feeling peace for the first time in years. The grief never left, but it had softened, replaced by gratitude. He realized that love doesn't end with loss, it just changes shape. Years later, when Emily became a mother herself, she often told her son stories about her dad. She'd say, "Your grandpa taught me that heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear grease-stained shirts and make pancakes at 6 a.m. And when Michael held his grandson for the first time, his heart swelled. "Welcome to the world, little man," he whispered. "You're already loved more than you'll ever know." The baby wrapped his tiny fingers around Michael's hand, and in that small moment, generations of love, loss, and strength came together. Emily watched them, tears glistening in her eyes. "Dad," she said softly, "you did it. You gave me everything." Michael smiled, his voice barely a whisper. "All I ever wanted was for you to be happy." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of laughter, memories, and a love that refused to fade. In a world full of broken families, Michael and Emily had built something unshakable, proof that real emotions, single dads, and unforgettable moments weren't just words. They were the heartbeat of every story that mattered. Because in the end, it wasn't about being perfect. It was about never giving up. It was about love that survived through the quiet nights, the loud tears, and the endless hope that tomorrow would be better. And for Michael Carter, that was enough.